Welcome to a Torchlight 2 engineer overview. We're going to go into detail on the class and explain kind of what the class is about and its playstyle. So first of all, we'll look at the skills. Now the first skill tree is Blitz. Now Blitz is focused on, it's focused on the great weapon. So heavy lifting is one of the passive abilities you get, which adds extra damage. It adds attack speed and a stun chance to giant weaponry. This thing I've got equipped, this massive wrench hammer thing, is a giant weapon. So Blitz is focused around two-handed damage. It's also got a range of distance closers. So you've got things like Ember Reach, which pulls the enemy towards you. You've got Onslaught, which allows you to leap into the enemy. You've got Storm Burst, which is like a charge, but after the charge finishes, it's got knockback. It does AoE damage. So it's very much a treat, and obviously the ultimate, or the final ability, the epic ability, if you will, is Earthquake, which is a massive, massive AoE that does massive damage. So this is very much your two-handed weapon. I'm going to get up in your face and do damage. And I'm also going to add a bit of CC, which is crowd control, to kind of help the group if you're playing in a party multiplayer, or if you're playing on your own, try and control what's going on. So it's I would say a pretty standard two-handed tree. The next tree we've got is construction skills. Now this is totally different. This is more focused on producing or building turrets. So you've got things like the healing bot, which is a healing turret. You've got the gun bot, which is a gun turret. Your standard gun turret fires at things. You've got things like spider mines where you can throw. This is not StarCraft 2, by the way. You can throw spider mines down and they run out and detonate and explode. So it's kind of like a ranged AoE. You've got blast cannon, which gives you a ranged attack to your cannon. You can actually use big like bombard cannons as the engineer. They look like cannons off a boat from Pirates of the Caribbean, one of them style of big old fashioned cannon thing. You've got stuff like shot grenades, which give you a chance to stun targets and things like that. So you've got bits of CC. And the ultimate ability, the epic, the super duper ability, is the sledge bot. Now this is a massive robot that takes quite a bit of damage before it dies. So this is sort of like your tank pet. While you're there blasting away with your cannon and you've got your gun bots down and things like that doing damage from range, you're throwing in your shot grenades and all the rest of it, your spider mines, you've got your sledge bot there to tank the damage. So this is more of a ranged pet style of play, like totally different from the two-handed up in your face blitz skill. Now, the passive skills, they are like things like Bulwark, which gives you extra armor. Fire and Spark, which gives you more damage to fire and electric abilities. And Charge Domination, which when you slay an enemy, you've got a chance to absorb energy and fill your charge bar, which is also an interesting thing we need to go over. The charge bar of the class. Now, when you do damage, or as the description says, the engineer gains charges by damaging enemies up to a maximum of 5 charges. If charges are available, certain skills like Flame Hammer will consume a charge to significantly increase their power. So, let's see if we can. Yeah, okay. So, Shot Grenade. If you lob a grenade which shocks and stuns enemies in a 4-meter radius, it consumes 1 charge for 2 additional grenades. So, the more charges you've got available, the more grenades you're going to be throwing. The final tree is the Aegis tree. Now, again, this is totally different from the construction and the blitz skill tree. This is your defense tree. This is your sword and board. This is your shield one-handed weapon. This is your tank build. Now, you've got things like Shield Bash, which allow you to, you've got an element of crowd control. You can bash monsters out of the way, bash them away from the group. You've got Force Field. Now, this is probably my favorite ability in this tree. This projects a force field on you, but also projects a reduced strength force field, so it's 50% reduced in strength as to the force field you get on yourself across everybody in the group and all your allies, and that's great. So this is very much your tank tree. If you're looking to be the player who absorbs the damage, who helps the group function, who's there controlling monsters, this is the tree for you. The ultimate ability, now this is quite funky, is the Immobilization Copter. This is a drone which stuns targets. Well, it reduces their movement speed, it reduces their attack speed, and it reduces their cast speed. So while it reduces their movement speed, it snares the target. It's not a stun, it's a snare. It also massively debuffs the target. So again, you're there doing your job, protecting the group. And things like your passive abilities are your sword and board. So the defense of your shield, so the armor value, is actually added to your melee attack damage. Now that's a way of them balancing the fact that you'll be not that high on strength and damage stats. You're going to be, more vitality and armor. So looking at I'll tell you what, we'll keep that open, but looking at the character panel, now these are the same for every single class. You know, everybody's got strength, dexterity, focus, and vitality. However, if we're going to play, say, as the Aegis skill tree, or an Aegis engineer, then we're not really going to want dexterity, because that gives us a chance to perform critical strikes. Well, kind of maybe. Dodge enemy attacks. That probably would help a little bit. And it also increases your fumble recovery rate. Focus, now this gives us more mana and magic damage, and that's not really what we want. We're going to want vitality, because that's going to give us health, armor, and block value with our shield. And then we're going to want strength, because this is going to increase the damage we do and the critical strike rate. So I'd probably say for Aegis, you'd be looking at things like, definitely vitality would be your main stat, then it'd be strength and probably dexterity, and I wouldn't really bother too much with focus. However, if we look at the Blitz skill tree, we're going to want strength, because we want to do damage. So strength straight away would be your main stat. You probably would want a little bit of vitality, because you're going to be up in the enemy's face doing the damage, and maybe some dexterity, and maybe some focus for mana. However, if you want to be construction, you're probably going to need more mana, because you're going to need to spawn more turrets and all the rest of it. So you can see how it's different. Depending on the trees that you go down, depends on what skill points you're going to spend and where you're going to spend them. So hopefully, guys, that gives you a good overview of the engineer class for Torchlight 2. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, click all the links in the description, and I'll catch you next time, people. Toodaloo.